Hello Year 5-6, and today we are going to be working on specifically semicolons, colons and dashes. That's right, we're looking at punctuation. Now today we're going to be looking at all these types of punctuation in sentences and how it can help us punctuate sentences in different ways. At the end of the lesson, we're going to then be completing our own teaching learning posters, which you might remember that you see in Poplar, Birch and Beach classrooms. And we're going to be designing these for Year 3 and Year 4 so that we can share them with those classes when they come to learn about this piece of punctuation later on in the term. So to start off with, let's start with our presentation. And just like yesterday, we're going to go through little steps and little activities. So can I recognise and explain how semicolons, colons and dashes can be used and use them in my own writing? We know it might be a little bit tricky today in terms of you don't have me here in the classroom helping you, but if you write any questions that you have in the discussion post underneath this assignment, I'll be there to answer, or Miss Hammond or Mrs. Kenyon will be able to help you as well. Now, by the end of the lesson, we're hoping that you can identify when and why semicolons, colons or dashes can be used and to write your own sentences using these pieces of punctuation. So there's some tricky little punctuation marks to learn about. Semicolon, which can be used to link two closely related sentences and separate items in a list. The colon, which can be used to introduce a list amongst other things. And a dash, which can be used to connect or separate phrases and sentences. And some of us Year 6 pupils have been using dashes to separate relative clauses recently, which has been really impressive. Punctuation mark semicolons, they're used to link two closely related independent clauses. And that means they're closely related sentences instead of using a conjunction. So instead of using a fanboy like for, and, nor, but, so, or the I saw a wobble, those words get replaced with the semicolon. So, for example, the girls were excited about the party. A real magician would be there. The semicolon provides a smooth transition between the two sentences. So instead of us saying the girls were excited about the party, as a real magician would be there, they've used the semicolon instead. A full stop here would be too final. A comma would not be grammatically correct, as a comma should not be used to link two independent sentences. Now, have a go at using a semicolon in this way and write it down. You only need to write one sentence, whether you're typing it up onto your computer or writing it in one of your notebooks. We'll have a look and we'll provide feedback at the end of the lesson. It should take you no longer than 2 minutes. Semicolon keeps order in the sentence and it separates the information about each item in the list. So if we look at this example here, can you see how the person has used semicolons to separate those items in the list? Potatoes for the chips, beef for the burgers. Can you have a go at doing your own example of this? Semicolon keeps the order and it separates those information about each item in the list. Like I said, you should have already had a go at writing one of these on your own. If you haven't, now is the time to stop, pause the presentation and use the sentence in the yellow box to help you and magpie your own ideas. Press play when you're ready. So, moving on to our next punctuation marks, colons. Colons can be used to expand a sentence by linking independent clauses. They can introduce an idea that explains or expands on the information. The pantomime was a huge success. Over 2,000 people had booked tickets to see it. The fact that over 2,000 people had booked tickets for the pantomime explains why it was a success. So, have a go at using a colon in this way on your whiteboard. And again, Year 5-6, we know that this might be a little bit tricky, so just give it your best shot and we can help you in any means that you need by putting your questions in the posts. Colons can also be used to introduce a list. If you look at this example, can you see how the colon is used at the start of the list? It introduces Rachel's list of reasons for disliking cabbage. Can you create your own list for something that you dislike? Dashes can also be used to separate or connect two independent clauses, but they're often used in less formal writing. Lilies are very pretty flowers. They smell disgusting though. Can you see that the dash here creates a disjunction in the flow of writing and it introduces an unexpected surprise? Have a go at using a dash in this way on your whiteboard. Maybe you could use a different flower, for example. Or maybe you can talk about something that you think might smell quite nice. And again, pause the presentation, come back to it when you've finished. It should only take you 2 to 3 minutes. The two dashes mark out extra information and they're similar to brackets. As we can see here, they're used to separate the information. They add extra information to the sentence like the brackets would, but they draw more attention to what is written, making it feel more integrated into the main sentence. Have a go at using dashes in this way and write your own examples. And again, pause the presentation and press play to continue with the rest of the lesson when you're ready. It should only take 2 to 3 minutes for this sentence. So now we're ready to focus on our independent work. If we look at Running Wild as our example, these are all sentences that have been read and are from the book Running Wild. See if you can identify where the author has used a colon, a dash or a semicolon. Take the time to look. You don't need to write these sentences down, but just see if you think you can identify where it will need a colon, semicolon or a dash. There is only one piece of punctuation for each example piece of writing. Did you get it right? As we can see here, the colon starts the list of what debris could be found. It was full of swirling debris, colon, cars, trees, telegraph poles. And as we can see here, the dash just gives us more information in terms of what Will could remember. I tried to make Una understand this every time we came to a stream, and there were enough of those in the jungle. Michael Morpurgo here has used the dashes to add extra information, but to bring our attention more and not use brackets. So, time for you now to create your own punctuation posters. And remember, semicolons can be used to link independent clauses and separate items in a list. Colons can be used to link independent clauses and introduce a list. And dashes can be used to link independent clauses and mark out extra information in sentences. You can pause the video here at any time and come back to it to magpie these ideas for your posters. Here are some examples for you. As we can see here, this poster has got the title of the punctuation we're using. It has a cartoon of the punctuation. It has examples of the punctuation being used and pictures, and it has a definition of what a semicolon is. Same with this one. The colons has the definition, examples, pictures, and the piece of punctuation itself in a clever cartoon. And finally, with dashes, the definition is at the top, different types of examples and pictures and sentences as well. Again, feel free to pause the video, use this to magpie any ideas, but use the sentences that you have created yourself to add them to your poster. I look forward to seeing them later on today. So Year 5-6, that's where we finish this lesson today, and I look forward to seeing you all tomorrow, where we will be learning about adverbials for cohesion before moving on later on in the week on Thursday and Friday in terms of doing some speech and practicing our speaking and listening. Goodbye, everyone.